My boy Mark got 50,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and over 3 million views on YouTube. All independently. Here's how he did it. I know so many indie musicians who are dying to be heard. They've done everything they can think of, and they feel like they're going nowhere. There's just so much information out there, you can really get lost in a sea of internet advice. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sean, thousands of monthly listeners and millions of views? Come on, that's kind of crazy. I get it. I'm going to share with you Mark's story. He really opened my eyes to the power that independent artists now have. Let's start from the top, though. Back in the day, you'd have to make a bunch of cassettes, and then those turned into CDs, and then you'd have to go after the record labels. Basically, you'd get like a record label directory from somewhere, and you'd start cold calling and cold emailing and cold snail mailing all these labels with your album. Some would be down to check your stuff out, and some, not really. They didn't want to receive any unsolicited materials, and your CD went straight to the trash. And you spent a lot of money on these CDs, so that really sucked. Now, if you want to do that these days, you can't. I don't see why you'd want to, but you can't. For example, you can go to artistpr.com like my friend Mark did. He says that you get all these important people's phone numbers on there. You also get emails, but that's for the blogs, not really for the important people. He also said that it took him months to get through this indie Bible, and only 50% of the people actually answered him. He also mentioned that 15% of them took the time to give him advice, which I think is really cool considering they didn't even know him. This direction didn't really get him anything other than some friendly advice. Thing is, these days there are so many more options to get your music out there. I'm not going to run through all of them with you, but here's the one that worked for Mark, and it worked big time. Let me ask you a question first, though. Why do you want to get signed? Yes, getting signed as an artist to a major record label has many positives, but it also has quite a bit of negatives these days. This is not all of them, but here are a few things to consider. Generally speaking, if you get signed to a major label, you'll have access to a recording deal advance. That's money you get in advance for the next year or two so you can live on it while you're writing and recording your album. You'll also have the chance to get large promotional budgets. That means more money up front for great gear, for touring options, for video shoots, stuff like that. Whatever it takes to promote your music. You'll also get amazing connections. So say you want to work with some famous writers or you want to work with a famous producer. These guys know all the right people and they can make it happen. Also, you'll definitely have more access to big radio stations. Well, not you, your music. Here are a few negatives. And first off, that money you're getting and spending is not free money. It's not your money, it's their money. That's money that they're giving you up front, but they're going to want it back at the end. And don't forget, they can spend whatever they want and then bill you. You owe them that money out of the proceeds from sales, streams, touring, merch, all that and more. So once money comes in, they get their share. If anything is left, you can have some too. The label can make deals and decisions with your music without even asking you. They'll usually have full control over marketing, artwork, distribution, and even more important, the creative control over the material, your music. Just assume you're going to have a lot less control over your own music because it's not your art anymore, it's their investment. And they want their investment to perform and pay out some great returns. So that's it. They're in control now. Chances are, by the way, you're one of many new artists that got signed. The label will most likely sign a bunch of new artists just to see what sticks. And guess what? If your music doesn't stick, chances are you're getting shelved. What that means is that they don't believe that this investment, being you, will bring a good return. And therefore, they're hitting a pause button on spending any more of their budget on you. You are now stuck in limbo, my friend, waiting for your contract to end sometime in the next few years. In the meantime, I hate to say it, but go find a day job and forget about these dreams, because the label now owns those dreams, and they're in no rush to invest any money in them. Or you could spend more money and hire an attorney to try and get you out of the contract. The point is, if you're wanting to get signed to a major record label, think twice. Now, indie labels are different. They're much smaller with smaller budgets, smaller influence, smaller teams, smaller everything. But since they're giving you less up front, they're probably expecting less on the back end. So that may be the way to go. And in fact, once you've reached your 50,000 monthly followers on Spotify and millions of views on YouTube, you, my friend, have a lot more leverage and power when you walk into negotiations with the indie label. So back to it. Mark wasn't getting anywhere with this indie Bible direction. Somehow, he found out about SubmitHub, and now he told me about SubmitHub a few months later, and I've had my own experiences with it, which I put up in this video. That's actually when I was impressed with Mark's 10,000 monthly listeners. Now he's at 50,000 monthly listeners, and last I checked, he was at about 3 million views on YouTube. That happened after he put out his latest single, Say You Love Me, which was produced by an awesome indie producer and artist, Yo Mace. Through SubmitHub, he got so many great responses and great placements that his shit just blew up. Now, it's not Katy Perry's 37 million monthly listeners, but you gotta start somewhere, right? I'd kill for 50,000 monthly listeners right now. Man, I'd kill for 10,000. Which brings up an excellent point that Mark mentioned. He said, make sure to celebrate the small victories because it doesn't happen overnight. If you're not grateful for the one fan, you probably won't be grateful for the millions of fans. And it's a marathon, not a sprint after all, right? This is something you want to do with your life, not just the next few months. I was super impressed with Mark's single, Say You Love Me. So I asked him to tell me who the producer was and how he met him. Now listen closely because this is an important part of the journey. We all try to get the best price when we're looking to buy something, right? You want to buy some food? Who's got the best deal? You want to buy a new guitar? Should you get it from Guitar Center or through Sweetwater? Pretty sure that's the same company right now, but you get my point, right? We do this in music as well. You're not a producer and you want a producer to produce your music. So you might get on Fiverr and look for the cheapest producer out there. Now what you're going to get may very well be better than anything you could have done yourself, but it's probably not going to be what the song could have been with the right producer. Let me give you a piece of advice. This worked for Mark, it worked for other people who found me as a producer over the years, and it worked for many other artists I know, including my boy, Alex Feder, which some of you might remember as my brother in arms on the Enrique Iglesias stages. There he is, right there. Look at that guy. The advice is, find a producer you love, and then figure out how much money they're going to charge you to produce your music. When I say love, I mean you're really feeling their vibe. You like their directions and their musicality, as well as the sounds that they produce when you're listening to work they've done in the past. Alex found this dude in England, a producer called David Costin. He was listening to some albums that he really enjoyed and found one called Arc by a band called Everything Everything. And he was just blown away by the production and the mixing. He looked into who the producer was, checked out other stuff by David, and felt like this was the right fit for him. So he hit him up, sent him a bunch of demos. David picked his favorite 3, and they recorded them. They did some pre-production before Alex flew out, and then he went over for a week of recording. A month later, he came back. He had 3 mixed singles that he was super proud of. You can find those singles, by the way, in a link I'm going to leave in the description. Well, same thing happened with Mark. He found this artist on YouTube, way to go YouTube, a guy called Yo Mace. He loved his sound, loved his production, and when he dug a little deeper, he found out that not only did Yo live nearby him, but he was also producing his own material. So he reached out and asked how much it would cost for Yo to produce his songs. They came to an agreement and got to work. Mark was spending a lot more than what he was used to, but when he told me this, he had a big smile on his face. He finally figured it out. You get what you pay for. He was happy to spend this money because the product was so good. And let's let the numbers speak for themselves. He went from 10,000 monthly listeners to 50,000 within a week of Say You Love Me coming out. Last we spoke, which was about a week after the single came out, he already had 517,000 views on YouTube and counting. Come on, that's awesome! Look, what I want you to take away from this video is this. Record labels can be great, but they may or may not be the right fit for you. The good news is that these days you have so many more options of getting your music out there yourself that record labels aren't necessarily necessary. And if you're going to sign with a record label, have them come after you, not the other way around. You want to have some leverage at the negotiating table, don't you? I'm going to say this again, as I've said before, I have zero association to Submit Hub. With that being said, go check it out, or at least check out my video. If you use it correctly, you can spend a minimal amount of money and get some incredible results. Don't get me wrong, you will get denied. A lot. Your music won't be right for everyone, but just get those few yeses and start there. As Mark said, celebrate the small victories. And to remind you, I got 4 yeses out of 13 submissions for one of my singles. To me, that was a straight up win. Find the right producer for you. If you're going to spend money, this is where you want to spend it. A producer brings experience, he brings sounds, ideas, musicality. There's so many reasons why you should invest in this product as opposed to others. And again, find the right producer. Find someone you're absolutely crazy about. I recently found this amazing producer from Chicago, Kranz. I heard this band called Punch Parade on Spotify and I loved the production so much, I reached out to them and got Zach's info. Don't get me wrong, I'm a producer, but I was so blown away, I had to let him know how much I enjoyed his work. That is how I want you to feel about your producer. Even Mark told me that he was so grateful to Yo for steering him towards the more electronic pop. He would have never gone there had he not had complete faith in his producer to make the best possible music for him. Good luck getting those monthly listeners, and shit, while we're at it, go check my stuff out. I'll leave the link in the description. Like, subscribe, hit that bell, comment. See you next week. You may be thinking, Sean is a weirdo, but no.
Okay.
I just wish I had a pipe with me. Back in the old days. Go check my stuff out. I'll put it there. Good luck getting those monthly listeners. And shit. In your face!